Hi boys and girls, by now I'm sure your moms and dads have told you that we have to stay out of the school for a little while. The school is just fine, everybody's just fine, and so are you. We're all just staying home so that we can all stay healthy. So because I'm going to miss seeing you so much in the hallways and your hugs, I thought I would read you a bedtime story. So I hope you have your jammies on and that you're under the covers because I'm going to read to you one of the favorite stories I used to read to my little girls. It's called You Are Mine. Punchinello lived in Wemmixville. Just like other Wemmicks, he was made out of wood. Just like other Wemmicks, he was carved by Eli, the Wemmick maker. And just like other Wemmicks, he sometimes did silly things, like the time he began collecting boxes and balls. Things started getting crazy when a Wemmick named Tuck bought a new box. Others had boxes, but Tuck's box was brand new. Tuck loved his new box. He thought it was the best box in the village. It was brightly colored and he was very proud of it. Too proud, perhaps. He strutted up and down the street showing off his box. Was that a nice thing to do? No. Have you seen my box? He would ask the Wemmicks he passed on the street. Would you like to touch my new box? Tuck marched right up to Punchinello. Don't you wish you had a new box? He said. Oh, Punchinello did think Tuck's box was beautiful, and he began to wish for a box of his very own. Nip, another Wemmick, disagreed. My box is just as good as Tuck's, he said, and he showed off his box to the Wemmicks on the other side of the street. Nip's box was not new, but it was a bit bigger and a bit brighter, and it was a bit more than Tuck could take. Tuck got very quiet and gave Nip a mad look. Then he had an idea. He went into the store and bought another ball. Now he had more things than Nip. He had a box and a ball. Well, Nip frowned at Tuck's ball. Nip could do better than that. He bought 2 balls. With a smile on his face, 2 balls and a box in his hands, he marched up to Tuck and said, Now I have more than you. Oh, goodness. Before he knew it, Tuck was in the store buying another box. Then Nip ran to buy another ball. Then Tuck bought a ball and Nip bought a box. Ball, box, ball, box. Tuck, Nip, Nip, Tuck. On and on it went. Someone could have stopped the whole thing. In fact, that's what the mayor tried to do. You two are being silly, he said. Why, who cares who has the most toys? You're just jealous, they said to the mayor, because you don't have any. Jealous of you? Ha, said the mayor. But pretty soon, the mayor went into the store and bought an armful of boxes and balls. Goodness. Other Wemmicks began to do the same thing. The butcher, the baker, the cabinet maker, the doctor from up the street, and the dentist from down the street. Before long, every Wemmick wanted to be the one with the most balls and boxes. Some were big and some were bright. Some balls were heavy and some were light. Tall people carried them, small people carried them, everybody carried them. And everybody thought the same thing. Good Wemmicks have a lot. Not so good Wemmicks have little. Is that a nice thought? No, it's not true, huh? When a Wemmick walked down the center of Wemmixville with a stack of balls and boxes higher than his head, the people would say, oh, there goes a good Wemmick. But when a Wemmick passed by with only 1 ball or 1 box, the others would shake their heads and think, maybe even whisper, poor Wemmick, poor poor Wemmick. Well, Punchinello did not want to be called a poor Wemmick, so he decided to get as many boxes and balls as he could. He searched through his closet and found one little ball. He dug into his pocket and found enough money for one small box. I know what I'll do, he said. I'll sell my books to get more money to buy more boxes and balls. So he did. He bought a blue and a green box with clouds painted on the sides, but he still wanted more. I'll work nights to get extra money, he told himself. And so he did, and he bought a ball. And since he was working nights, he didn't need his bed, so he decided, I'll sell my bed. And he did just that, just to buy 2 more balls. Soon Punchinello had an armful, but other Wemmicks still had more. Some of them had so many boxes and balls, they actually had trouble walking. It's hard keeping up with all my balls and boxes, they would say, acting like they were complaining, but they were really bragging. Oh, Punchinello wanted so much to be like the other Wemmicks, so he sold more of his stuff, and he worked more hours. His eyes were tired from not getting any sleep. His arms were tired from carrying so many toys. He couldn't remember when he last sat down to rest. And worst of all, his friends couldn't even remember the last time he played with them. We haven't seen you in a long time, his friend Lucia said to him one day. Why don't you come and play games with us, said his buddy Splint. Not everybody cared about boxes and balls. Punchinello's friends didn't, but Punchinello cared more about having boxes and balls than he cared about having friends. I've got work to do, he would say, and his friends would just sigh. Punchinello didn't care. He only cared what the other box and ball people thought, and no matter what he did, he couldn't buy enough things to get their attention. Finally, he had an idea. I'll sell my house. Lucia said, that's crazy. Where will you live? Said his friend Splint. Punchinello didn't know, and Punchinello didn't care. All he could think about was the boxes and balls he would have with all that money. So he sold his house, and he bought boxes and balls and boxes and balls and balls and balls and boxes. He carried so many toys he couldn't see where he was going. His stack went up way above his head, but he didn't mind. So what if his arms were tired? So what if he kept walking into walls? So what if he had no friends? He had boxes and balls. And when he passed the Wemmicks, they would turn to say, wow, he must be a good Wemmick. Punchinello heard them. He couldn't see them, but he heard them, and he felt good. I'm a good Wemmick, he thought. But then somebody changed the rules. It was the mayor's wife. She was very proud of her boxes and balls. She not only had a lot of them, but she also had special kinds of them. She bought them at the fanciest stores with the fanciest names and left the names on the boxes so that everyone would see them. She wanted to be the best Wemmick. One day she had an idea. Not only will I have the most, but I will go the highest. So she climbed on top of her boxes and shouted, look at me, everybody! Immediately, all the box and ball people tried to outdo her. One climbed on a fountain. Another one climbed on a balcony, and another climbed on the roof. But it was the mayor who saw the mountain. Behind the village of the Wemmicks was Wemmick's Peak. I'm going to the top of the mountain, he shouted, hoping to get there first. And then it was a race. It was a crazy, crazy race. Since the wooden people couldn't see where they were going, they kept bumping into each other. And soon they were exhausted. They fell over their own feet. But they kept going. And at the very end was Punchinello. He was having a hard climb, harder than the rest. After all, he'd only been a good Wemmick for a very short time. He wasn't used to carrying so many boxes and balls, but he was determined. He kept putting one little wooden foot in front of the other. But since he couldn't see where he was going, he didn't know that he was on the other side of the trail. He didn't know he was going to be lost. And all of a sudden, he was alone. I must be ahead of everybody else, he thought. And so he kept climbing up and up and up. Oh, I must be very near the top. I am such a good Wemmick. I'll be the highest. About that time, Punchinello's foot caught the edge of something. He tried to keep his balance. His toy swayed to the right and to the left. He leaned back, then forward, and he couldn't stop. He was going to fall. He didn't know, however, that he had walked up to Eli's house. Remember, he's the man that made him. He tripped on the step of the porch and tumbled through the front door of Eli's workshop. When Punchinello realized where he was so embarrassed. For a long time, he stayed face down on the floor, surrounded by all those boxes and balls. One of the balls rolled across the floor and stopped at Eli's feet. That's when the wood carver looked up and turned around. Punchinello! Eli's voice was deep and calm and very kind. The Wemmick still didn't move. Punchinello could feel his face turning red. Looks like you've been carrying a big load, Eli said. The tired Punchinello climbed to his feet, but he kept his head low. These are my boxes and balls, he said quietly. Do you play with your boxes and balls? Eli asked him. Punchinello shook his head. Do you like boxes and balls? Well, I like the way they make me feel, Punchinello said. And how do they make you feel? Eli asked. Important, Punchinello answered. Eli said. So you've been thinking like the other Wemmicks. You've been thinking that the more you have, the better you are and the happier you'll be. I guess so. Come here, Punchinello. I want to show you something. Punchinello lifted his little wooden head and looked at Eli for the first time. He was so relieved to see that Eli was not angry with him, so he followed him to the window. Look at them, Eli said. Punchinello looked out the window at all the Wemmicks still trying to get to the top of the mountain. They were tumbling and stumbling and fighting each other and elbowing each other to get ahead. Do they look happy? Eli asked. Punchinello just shook his head. Do they look important? Oh, not at all, Punchinello said. And he noticed that the mayor and his wife were on the ground, and the wife was even stepping on the mayor's back. Do you think I created the Wemmicks to act this way? Asked Eli. Oh no, said Punchinello. Punchinello felt a big hand on his shoulder. Do you know how much your boxes and your balls cost you? My books, my bed, my money, and my house. My little friend, they cost you much more than that. Punchinello was trying to remember what else he had sold when Eli continued. They cost you your happiness. You haven't been happy, have you? Punchinello realized and he said, no. They cost you friends, and most of all, they cost you trust. You didn't trust me to make you happy. You trusted those boxes and those balls. Punchinello looked at his pile of toys, and all of a sudden, he didn't seem so valuable anymore. I kind of messed up, said Punchinello. That's okay, said Eli. You're still very special. Punchinello ducked his head and smiled. You're special not because of what you have. You're special because of who you are. You are mine. I love you. Don't you forget that, my little friend. Oh, I won't. Punchinello smiled, and then he paused and he said, Eli? Yes, said the woodcarver. What should I do with all these boxes and balls? Perhaps you should give them to someone who really needs them. Punchinello turned to leave, but he stopped again. Eli? Yes? I don't have a place to sleep. Eli smiled and offered, would you like to sleep here tonight? Oh, I sure would. I'm very tired. And so that night, Punchinello slept on a bed of wood shavings. He slept well. It felt good to be in the house of someone who loved him. And that's exactly where you guys are, in your houses where your mommy and your daddy and everybody loves you. We will see you back soon. I'll send more stories. And if you want to, you can videotape and send a story to me too. We miss you. We love you. Be good. Bye.